Mesech Menochos, Daf Chav Daled Ab Aleph. We're starting from 4 lines above the wide lines, starting from the words Tashma. Yesterday we were learning about when it comes to Bitul B'Reiv, Batul B'Reiv. So, in order to be Batul B'Reiv, it has to be Min Sheina Minei. So, what makes it considered Min Sheina Minei? 26, number 26. It says numbers here, 26 by Tashma. So he says, what makes it? Which side do you have to look at? Do you have to look on the majority side or the minority side? So we had an example. I mean, that was the whole Gemara yesterday. If let's say you have 2 pieces of meat, which is the majority of shachut that was slaughtered the right way, you had 1 nevela. So what makes it min shein and b'minei? Do we look at the majority as the focus? So if the majority could become an avela, then it would be min b'minei, but it can't. Shachut cannot become an avela. That's if you look, the focus that determines if it's min b'minei or min b'shein and b'minei is the focus is on the majority. But there's a mandab that says, Rab Chanina says, the focus of min shein and b'minei is on the minority, on the avela. The nevela could become like a shachut. If it decays, it's no more tummy, and it becomes the same thing as the majority. So then it's min b'minei. Doesn't matter. Then it's called min b'minei. So depending, Rav Chizda says, what should be the focus to determine?
Who said you look at the minority?
Rabbi Chanina. Okay, so we'll start over here. Tashma, we'll see a similar case. Tashma, come in here. Instead of kumtza, the bishiraim shal chavata, if the kemitza part, the scooping part, got mixed up, fell into shirayim of somebody else's mincha, that means there were 2 minchas, shirayim, they did the kemitza, 1 kemitza was burnt, and 1 kemitza he took off, and he dropped it into the shirayim. So now, which one in your eyes is going to...
Shirayim you're supposed to eat, right?
Right. So he says, what about the kemitza? So, do you burn the kemitza or not? So he says, lo yakte.
Why, it's separate? It doesn't get mixed up with the shirayim?
It did get mixed up. So, 1 minute, we're going to get to it. So, we're going to say it's not bottle if it's min b'minai. So, the kemitza stays as it is. Even if it got mixed up with shirayim, we don't mix it. We say min b'minai, einayim is bottle.
Why do they say it's min b'minai?
Oh, we'll get to it in a second. Lo yakte. It says, don't burn it. B'mihikta, also l'baylam. But if he burnt it, it's good. That means it is a good. It's not bottle. Says the Gemara. I don't understand.
If the kemitza is in the shirayim, so we say it's not. He says if it's oil on
the shirayim.
The kemitza goes. If you take the kemitza out,
The shirayim, you have to say the kemitza in the shirayim is 1 min to say it's not bottle. In fact, but it's not so. Number 1, the shirayim cannot become the kemitza. And the kemitza cannot. No, kemitza can never become shirayim. Chav Gimel Lamed Beis, and now what? The first wide line, Chav Gimel Lamed Beis. You're in Menochos. You had the first wide line, L'Koimetz, the beginning of the first one, L'Koimetz. So he says like this. So
therefore you couldn't go be matzamis.
Lo Kamevatel Shiraim L'Koimetz. So the Shiraim cannot be Mevatel L'Koimetz. Why not? Because. Well, anyway, I want to bring out the point that it's min shein and b'minai, because even according to Rav Chizda, who says you look at the majority, or even according to Rabbi Chanina that you look at the minority, either way you look at it, then neither of them could become like the other. If neither of them could become like the other, they're 2 separate minin, and they should be batal. So the shiraim should be mevatel the kemitza. How could he do the kemitza im Allah im hikta Allah lulabaylam? How could it be? So that's the Gemara's kasha. Mani, if it's a rabbanon, even if it's Sai of Chizda, Sai Rabbi Chanina, it's never going to work. It's always going to be 2 different minim. Whether you focus on the majority, let's say Shiraim can never become like the minority Kmitza. Where you focus, the rabbanon say only by oilin, if it's oilin on the mizbeach, then it's but then it's not bottle. It's not bottle. It's not bottle. But it's not on the mizbeach. It always is bottle. And even according to Rabbi Yehuda, that min b'minoi is not going to be bottle, but this is not min b'minoi. Whether it's Rav Chizda, whether it's Rav Chanina, it's not min b'minoi. But I'm saying we're going to go to the same answer. It's Gzeda Shava. We have a special Gzeda Sakosav. Nemak Torah B'koimetz v'nomen haktorah b'shirayim. It says haktorah by koimetz, that ma haktorah ha'amur b'koimetz ein koimetz b'vatos chavei. Just like the kmitza, when you have two kmitzas mixed up, we're not going to say, oh, one kmitza had more oils from a different mincha that has 3 lugan oil. And then you have a kmitza that has only 2 lugan oil, so it absorbed, it took away from the 3 lugan, from the one that needs 3 lugan, it's missing. And the one that absorbed got too much, so they should both be possibly say, no, it's not. We have a pasuk that says each one has its right share, it's not considered as mixed.
We don't go into the principle of we
no.
don't look at that.
So he says that just like it says the same word haktorah by shirayim to tell us that the shirayim and the koimetz, we're not going to say, oh, it got mixed up, so it should be mavatal. It's not mavatal. Same thing. Toshma says, you want to come here, I'll give you another case. Tibla, spices, but ketzach. Ketzach is, I forgot what it's called in English. Ferrin, I think it's ferrin, a spice. Vishum shomim and seeds, poppy seeds, all kinds of tavlin. Says the Yomanic Sheda, it's kasher for the mitzvah of achilas matzah, and it's still because matzah. El shanik has matzah metubelis. Only it's called spicy matzahs. Kasal kadaita.
You use a pesach?
He says it's going to.
You
made matzah and you put a lot of spice on it. The majority was the spices.
You wanted to have a
spicy matzah. Says you want
After the matzah is ready, you put the spices.
Yeah. Kasal kadaita. The Bnei Beis Hamed thought that the rice is talking about matzah, that the amount of tavlin was way more than the matzah, and nevertheless the matzah is not bottle to the spices. Says you want a bishlam the mandiyama basa bottle azinon. If you go according to the mandiyama that says the focus that determines if it's min b'minoi is the minority, the bottle. So what? How much is the bottle?
What's the bottle here?
The matzah is the small amount, right? But the matzah, the matzah could become like spices. How? The lechime apsho, when it becomes rotten, so have a little bit of, it becomes stale and whatever, it turns in. The havalut kitav, then it becomes like the spices. Here it says, when the matzah becomes very, very rotten. Okay, whatever. But according to the Mandi Abba that says we go after the majority. The majority is the spices. Tavlin mikav matzah. Could a spices ever turn into matzah? Can never transform into matzah. So if it can never transform into matzah, and you're looking at the majority, so a majority can never turn it. That's what determines if it's min b'mina. So it means it's not the same min. So how can you say the matzah is good? It should be mavatal the matzah, and he's not yotzei mitzvah's matzah. Says if you go if the matzah, which is if the tavlin is the majority, and that's what determines if it's min b'mina or not, the tavlin can never become matzah. So it's a min she'ein b'mina. So how could you be yotzei the mitzvah of matzah? But you want to, I told you today to get lost in what we learned in this Gemara, so you can get it.
Practice yesterday.
Okay, that's true. The Ruba matzah, he says this case was the majority was the matzah. So according to the Rav Chizda, who says the majority is what determines if it's the same min or not, it is the same min, because the majority of matzah can turn into spice when it rots. Says the Gemara, Daikadami, I'll bring your ayah that the matzah was the majority, because the Ketani, he calls it matzah. It's called matzah, but it's called spicy matzah. Eloshin Kaz, matzah mitubelis. It's called matzah, spicy matzah. But the main thing is matzah.
Spices is a separate thing. It's just it gives it a taste. It's not that
it could be. I'm not sure if it was in the ingredients or not. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. Zakt you want to sell Rav Kahana. No inyan. When Rav Kahana made Aliyah, like I'm sure you're planning to make Aliyah, he went from Rav Kahana went from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Ashkechina lebnei. Okay. Ashkechina lebnei Rabbi Chia the Yasvi Gamri. He found the children of Rabbi Chia. I think the children we said before, Rabbi Yehuda and Chizkiah, were the children of Rabbi Chia. So what did he say? He said in Shal Mincha, if you have, that's the amount, a shear of a mincha has to be a yisarin. And out of that big amount, you take a kmitza, a handful. So how much is a full mincha? One yisarin. But what happened is shechilku. he had two pieces of dough, a half isonin here, a half isonin in the kli, separated. And he placed it in the keli where you're supposed to mix it. He put one piece here, one piece here. There's a space in between. And a tvul yaim is somebody who touched something tummy. He went to mikveh, but he still has to wait till the sun goes down. So, of course, he can't touch him, and if he touches it, there's a certain degree of tumah. So we want to know if he touched one of the doughs, which is kachim, which he's metama, what happens? Does he touched this piece of dough, this half of the sonin, and the other half of his sonin is separate. But it's in one keli. Does it all become tamei? Kli mitzalef masha. It doesn't matter, but he says, "Well, what's the din with the gate to this chatzei hasheni? Does the chatzei hasheni become possible even though it's not touching the one that he touched?" Says you want to keep tanah. This is like exactly like
talking about it's in all one keli.
It's in one keli. This is the keli, and here you have two pieces of dough, and the tvul yaim touch this one, not this one, and they're not attached. So we want to know if the kli makes it attached. Kitanam, when we learned in the Mishnah, kli mitzalef Hashem lekodesh, that the kli it combines, and a tvul yaim touches it. Says the Gemara, hani meli the hechle nagi ba'adodi. He says he joins them; they were attached, right? And then he joins them. He says, since it's touching, it's one piece, it's one whole. You saw. That's it. So that's what we say. But if they're not touching, it can join, it can combine them. It can. It's only if it's. He says it. The kli is mitzaref. Mitzaref means now we think is mechab. What?
Keli doesn't have any status of tumah or
No. He's touching the ear of the kli. Could it bring it together or not? So I wouldn't throw. Well, what's if the two doughs are not touching and he touched one of them? I would say not. Or perhaps no. There's no difference if it's touching or not.
Since they're in the same keli.
Since the same keli, it's going to be one. So he answered back. Rav Kahana answered to the children of Abchia, Mitnan. Did we learn in the Mishnah Kli Mechaber that the Kli joins them together? Kli Mitzarev. We learned that it's combines them together. Join means they're touching, and it makes it one. But that's not what we learned in the Mishnah.
We have a whole discussion about
combine. Chibur is the touching, but you make it into one piece. Mitzvah combining means you're taking two separate pieces, and the keli made it as if it's one.
Treat it as one.
And it made it into one, even though they're separated. Combining means that's combining. And joining that's the word mechabes. Joining means they're touching and they join into one. Mitzaref means that you're combining even two pieces are separated, and you consider it as the one. Okay, so we learned befeis mitzaref tadan. Koldu. That means that a chaticha that is nekli is considered any keli, even though they're separated, they're going to be considered as one. So your mother, I hear you. So that's the answer. So the kli is mitzaref even when you touch one, the other one becomes tummy even though they're not touching.
Both it has a status. Doesn't have a status.
Full yaim makes it tummy. Yeah, the tummy by kodesh. If it has it says shakol shayiga by any chulin that a tvul yaim will touch, it will not become tummy. But when it comes to the truma of the kodesh, no. If he touches, he's not allowed to touch that. He has to wait till Harev Shemesh, and if not, it's tummy. He's called a tvul yaim. It's metamid. It says tvul yaim and it gave it truma kodesh mitamam. That's the same famous thing. Okay, Zakti one of the Bnei Rav Chia asked Rav Kahana an additional question. Hoishit echad, what lebeneim? What's if there's a third piece? There's two halves till now we're talking about. Now there's a third half over here. So, what's the din? If the third half is in between the two halves, not touching, do the two halves, the original two halves, become tummy because there's a separation from the third half?
Because now we established that even though they're separate, they consider
but it's part of one isarin and it's a one keli. But now you have another half that doesn't even belong there, and it's in between. Is it blocking it or not? Amalahu, he says, tzarich lekli, something that needs the kli mitzarfei. Like here, the two half of Isarins, you need the kli to make it into one Isarin in order to do the mincha, the kmitza on the mincha. Ain't tzarich lekli. This third, this Yitzhak Deif, we'll call him, this outsider.
It's not a Yosef Deif, it's right in the
No,
middle.
but we call it Yitzhak. It doesn't need that. The interloper ain't tzarich lekli. So they ain't kli l'tzarfei. Then the kli doesn't, is not
What do you mean you
mitzarfei.
don't need him in the cave? What do you mean you don't need him?
What do you need that to Chatzi son the kli to do? What? What does you need the keli for? What? It's not serving any purpose.
For the third guy.
For the third guy, you don't need it. He doesn't need the kli.
Leave.
It's not for another second mincha. You don't have another half to combine it with. So therefore, the kli is not mitzaref to these two halves, and they all remain, and it remains tahir. Okay, so that one remains tahir. Hayshit tful yaim, as it's boyim beinayim. What's the a tful yaim stuck his finger in the ear between the two
I don't even
Oh,
touch
there's
it.
no third?
without touching anything?
There's no third?
Before we learned he touched one of them. No third. No.
In other words, there's two halves.
Huh?
There were two.
Yeah, the
Full
two.
Yom and another one.
No, the two.
What?
No.
Before we said when the third piece came in, the third is not part of the tumah. The two yaim touched one. Only the two
two
isanis,
pieces.
the two original ones, are going to become tummy. The third one, the interloper, is not becoming tummy.
Okay.
Okay, now we're learning two pieces again. Back to two pieces.
Okay.
The guy took, instead of touching one of them, the two yaim, he stuck his hand in the middle, between the two. Do they become tummy because of the ear? Because the ear was combining the two. The ear of the keli is combining them. So maybe his finger in the ear, the two yaim, was matamet. So he says, "Hoishet two yaim." I said, "Wait, but
Is that a scratch?
wait, Bao, what's the din? No, we find that tumah is in the kli. No, the only time that we find that the ear of the keli is tummy just by the mere fact that it's in the ear, tumah is in the ear, is only by kli cheres. L'mashal, you put a sheretz through a hole of an oven that's made out of cheres, so the whole oven is tummy, even though it's not touching the oven anywhere. Just the ear is mekabel tumah, makes it tummy. That's only by kli cheres. Otherwise, one finger in the ear of a regular keli cannot make it tummy unless he literally touches one of them. It's like the Yimada Hada Iu. They said, okay, you asked enough shilas. I'm not just saying. So the Rav Kana says, you guys asked me shilas. The Bnei Rav Chia asked me, and now I'm going to ask you. Hada Iu by Menayu. Now he went and asked them.
Oh, they're playing a game.
He turned around.
He turned around the tables now. He asked them, what's the din? Likmitz mizah. Al zeh. What's if he took a kmitza only on the chatzi? He said he makes a scoop, but he needs a scoop from that one too. So is it as if he scooped from both because they're connected mitzad the kli? If he made the scooping in the kli on a half of his son and in the kli, so maybe in the kli it's as if he made on the whole thing. So the Gemara, listen, we got to understand. If tzidu is a kli mid'araisa mid'rabbanan, if this tzidu, if this combining is mid'araisa mid'rabbanan, mid'araisa, we have a pasuk. It says kaf, and then it says achas. Let me see if I have the whole pasuk, but it says definitely the word kaf achas meleich teres. So what do you mean achas? Kaf is single, one hand. Let's not shout achas. So they said the achas is to tell us that that it becomes keguf echad. Okay,
So it's in one keli.
it makes if it's in one keli, it's combined and it's like one. That's only according to Manda that says midaraisa. There's a Manda that says that drush is just an asmachta. It's not a drush midaraisa. So we have to know. So if it's midaraisa, midaraisa. If it's midaraisa, the kmitza is midaraisa also. So when he did a kmitza on half in the keli, it's as if he did it on the whole thing because in the keli they're combined. That's only if it's midaraisa. If it's midaraisa, it's not. He says, listen, this kind of a case, this exact case, I didn't hear. But similarly, I heard. It's not.
Who's saying this?
This is what the Bnei Rab Chia are answering Rav Kahana. So, but he says, similarly, I heard. It's not that we learned in the Mishnah earlier on. Shtei Menochos nikmitzu, and the Sarv Zubezuim Yachlik Mizbezu, Bifnayatz Mezum, Bifnayatz Mishayos. We said yesterday, two minchas. You listening?
One top of the other.
Mori, one like this, one like that, but two isarins, two full minchas. That's a little bit overlapping. He says this guy can make if he sees this one separate and this one separate, he can grab a kmitza from this one for this mincha, and a kmitza from this side for this mincha. Perfect. But vimlav, it's mamish overlapping. You can't see they're both the same, so you don't know which one is going for what. Psulis, then it's possible. So I think but you're saying if you could recognize, then it's going to be kosher. He says, we got a problem here. When it's mixed together, you have a piece from this mincha over here. When it's mixed a little bit, not the whole mincha of this is intact. When it's touching, a piece over here can be in this mincha over here, and a piece of this mincha can be over here. So there's a separation in the whole Yisarn. You have a hefsek. You understand? There's a hefsek between the two because they're mixed all over the place. So he says, how could you? And it says you have to take a kmitza from a full Yisarn, from its Yisarn, from a full Yisarn. It's
but
not.
you're considering it as one, though. Aren't you considering it as one?
No, we consider it separate.
Oh,
but
you
how?
want to take two kmitzas?
Yeah, with two different kmitzas. But how? They're mixed. They're not fully sarins. Because a piece of this one is over here, a piece of this one's over here. There's a big hafsik between the two isarins. So he says, Amarava, Dilma, Bekushna, Mechalakim, Asuikim, Masik. You know what a comb is? A comb, you want a comb? Yeah, brush your hair, yeah. So those combs have teeth. So it says it could be the fully sudden is all intact, but they're connected like this, like teeth in each other. But not that it's separated. These teeth are still connected to the whole mincha here. And these teeth are connected.
Don't have teeth.
He made it that way. He made it like a hand. He made two hands and he put the two hands of the mincha. He made a hand style with fingers and he connected.
That's how we put it together.
We put it together. So now each one is intact.
So it wasn't
really.
on top. It was like this.
Wasn't like that. Right. That's what he's saying. So in such a case, so it's all mechubaris. Here, look what he said. That's what it makes sense. Like the teeth of a comb. That's how they connect. Like a puzzle. Just like a puzzle. So nothing is blocking it. It's all fully intact, each one. What's Taki going to be back within our shaila if he took a kmitza of one half in the keli? Will it be considered as a full kmitza even though he didn't touch the second half? Amarava tashma kamani alatzio. Tanya we learned in the Braisa, it says v'heidim menu. It says you should remove bekumtzim misedes hamincha with a kmitza from the sedes of the mincha. Min hamechubar. It says it has to be from something that is all intact as one. Shaloi yavi yisanu b'shnei kelim yikmitz. You cannot take two half. Let's say you have two cups. You see, Mori, you have one half is something here, one half of here. You're going to take part of the kmitza here, and then the second part that you can't do. It has to be one piece. He says, right? It has to be mechuba. So ha b'kli yachad dumi l'shnei kelim kamitz. But it's mashma. The only time it's aser if the half of kmitzas were in two separate kelim, and he wants to do two separate half kmitzas. But what's if the two half kmitzas?
But he wants to do a whole kmitza.
A whole kmitza. But if it's in two, if it's set up like in two different kelim, but it's in one kelim, meaning not touching each other, the two halves, it's mashma. It is
separate,
good.
But it's in one keli.
In one keli, then it's kosher. Because the only psul that he gave, if it wasn't two separate kelim. But if the same two pieces were separated, but in one kelim.
The Avra connects them, right?
Yeah, but he wants a raya. Here he's telling you, from a chubah we learn out that it cannot be two separate kelim. But if it was in one kelim, even though it's in the same setup, as if it's in two kelim, they're separate pieces, but in one kelim, that's mashma that it would be good. Amalei Abaya. So Abaya said, Duma shnei kelim. Heichidami. Maybe the two kelim. When we said heichidami can get kvisa bekaba. Two kelim we're talking about kvisa with the afagav the arich me'eloi. Kelim the mifsek mechitzah said the kvisa metata. And therefore the milk is not really like kmitza. I don't know if you saw such cakes that they still have. We still have it in the house. You can make a round cake. It has a a hole in the middle,
then it has around.
and then what do you call that? A bun pan. That's what it is. Yeah, I have it still. We make it. I don't make the cake. My wife
So
does.
you make a tot.
So I want. Yeah, I'm a mashgiach.
You tell them
So
what
he-
it is.
Okay.
They call it a tot. A tot.
He goes a bun cake. I think it's
Bun
called.
cake, or
Yeah,
it's like a sponge cake.
yeah.
You can make any cake in it.
And
Gold is,
the bowl is called a bun.
Or a butter cake.
yes.
You can make a butter cake also.
Yeah. So he says in the middle.
Your
The
wife still
middle
makes
is
cakes?
yeah, sure. The middle. That's why I'm so skinny. So now the middle is as high as the walls around it, and the middle has a hole.
Right.
So in there you can have flour also.
Right.
He says, and around it. So he says, look, that's two separate kalim. Because let's say cut off this wall, you'll see you cut off just the whole wall, the first wall and second wall.
It's still
You see, it's mamish separated the two flowers, the middle one from the other. It's mamish separated. So he says, so
you can't go.
that's so even though when it flows on the top, the flour comes higher and they mix together. There, it's not going to be considered mixed together because it's higher than the walls of the kli. The walls of the kli is what makes it together. But whatever's in the kli is separated, so it's separated. Even the mivse mechitzas the kfiza metata, since the bun pot has a mechitza, mamish between the two doors.
A cover over the thing.
Not a cover. It has to be walls of the kli. Has the-
There's a clear, then they put like a top of.
I don't know if that part is considered as the kli to make it as what. That's the cover of it. It has to be the kli itself, the yisod. So he says, "Keep the mafsi mechitz the kviz betata." Since this bun keli is mamish separated the middle from the outer, so therefore, that's why the mincha is not right like kmitza, because it's a case of two kelim. But kli achad the dugna shnei kelim echidami. What would be a kli achad that's similar to two kelim, like a trough, where the chicken or like the horses eat from a fair kantik lang zach mit Wasser. So by the chickens they have a similar one, a long trough, and the mechitza is very small. It doesn't go all the way up to the height of the walls. And on one side you have wheat, or what do they call it? The food for the chickens, and on the other side you have water, but it doesn't reach up to the top. Anything, the wall is very short, and I mean the middle, the mechitza is short, and the wall goes up higher on both sides. So when the flour goes up higher, it's still surrounded by the walls of the keli. So he says that's the Kegoin Arivasa Sholtan Goylin, which is divided by a low mechitza. One is for one side of mechitza for water, one is for food. V'hafagav the mifskike mechitzasa. Even though there's a low mechitza in between, but they're touching on the top. When it goes a little bit over the mechitza, it's still in the walls of the trough. And he says, and therefore, it's gonna be machshir the kmitza.
Kmitza's okay.
The kmitza is okay, but it's mashma only if they're touching, because above the little mechitza, the low mechitza, even though on the bottom it's not touching, but since above it they are touching,
I mean, it's covering the
It's-
middle
it's-
of the mechitza.
it covers the mechitza. Yes. So he says such a kleli was saying.
It's not even considered a mechitza because you don't even see that. You see it, it's
Okay,
underneath.
but he says the mechitza is there still. It's since it's touching in the aver of the kli, so therefore it's mashma the mechitza, even though not the whole thing is touching together. There's a big portion on the bottom where the mechitza is blocking from both sides.
Yeah, it could be the mechitza comes up like this.
The mechitza goes up only this high, let's say. But the
could be right on the bottom and
the
you can see
keli
it
is
yourself.
way higher. The keli goes up higher. Here's the mechitza. The keli is square, and then here's the mechitza in the middle, food and water. But here we're talking about flour. The two halves are here. One half.
Why do you use this here?
One half of these
Take
something
a
here.
cup. Here, take a cup. And we'll squeeze it in here.
Make a cake out.
Here, right? And you say it's something like this.
Right, it's inside, so the flour goes above it. Some of it is separated by the
This
wall.
is above and this is above, but there's a mechitza in the
In the bottom is the mechitza. So he said, "Hacha But here in our case, the loinagir klal, by our case where we're talking about in one keli where they're not touching at all, not even on the top, to bayilach, that's where we still have a suffix.
The shayla.
So it's a shayla, another shayla.
Bunt. Bunt pan.
Bunt pan. Okay, we got it now. It's called bunt pan. This is from Morty explaining what this keli of the kviza is telling us. You don't understand that one? Okay.
Part I understood.
Okay. Rabbi Yirmiyah is the kasha tzedov kli v'chibo mayim. He says, Ma, what's going to be the din? Now you have three pieces. You have two pieces in the keli, two half of his son, and one half of his son outside the keli. Okay? So, I'm sorry, tzedov kli v'chibo mayim. Right. So, Ma, what's going to be the din? Kitna kli matzara masha b'seichel in kodesh. So, do we say hanimili the gavay of the bararoy lay? What happened? Inside the kli, one piece became tamei, right? So when one piece becomes we'll call it aleph. The tuliyim touched aleph. The second half is called beis in the keli. The second half is tamei, and you have a top piece outside where it connects to the second piece through a flow of water. It's called nitzuk hamayim. Nitzuk hamayim connects it. Does that third one become tamei from the second one? Again, the tuliyim touched this piece. One chatzi yisonin, another chatzi yisonin, but in the same keli. This one became tamei, and automatically this one became tamei. Then you had a third piece that's connected through nitzuk hamayim, through a flow of water. Does the third piece become tamei also? Says I'd say only those that are inside the keli, those become tamei. The one that's outside and it's connected because of a flow of water light. Or I say I don't care. Since it's connected, it's connected. Because of nitzuk hamayim.
Water is considered as the connector?
A nitzuk, yeah, it's a flow of water and connects.
It
has to flow.
How do you have a full flow?
You have a taich of water going down from one piece down straight down. Okay, keep
Fingers
them.
open, right? The
Yeah, keep the mechaber. If you're going to say it does, it is mechaber. How about chiba mayim instead of kli? If the second one became tamei through the chiba mayim, that means the tuma touched the beis and gimel. I'm sorry, the tuma touched the one on the outside, touched the gimel, and from outside the tuma came and it touched. It was mechaber to the second one in the kli.
So there were two streams?
One stream, the one from the outside. A tuliyim touched the half his son outside. Yeah, and that outside one had a stream, a flow of water touching another half inside. So that second one became tamei. Should we say the other one in the keli? First one doesn't become tamei or not? Ma, what's that do? Says Yimad Kitna Kli Mitzarav Hanimili the Nagam Megavai. When do we say tuma travels? If the tuma happened inside the keli. Well, you can't come with a tumor from outside the keli and start making connections. No connections. The outsider cannot make connections. He's an interloper.
What are those made the connections? And what are those made connections?
It does, but he says over here, since the tumor started from the outside, we don't let the tumor travel that way. Or perhaps no difference. Take who? But his son his son that was divided into two halves. One of them became tamei. And he placed them in the kli where you mix the two isarins. But where did the tumah happen? Outside. He put it in the kli. We know if the tumah happened outside, it's not going to be matama inside. But what did he do? After he put it inside the keli, the tuliyim again touched the tumah. So the tumah should happen inside. The second time. Again, the tuliyim came again. Touched it inside the keli. He's saying, oh, you're going to see. Ma, what's going to be the din? Should we say, hey, it can't become a second time tamei? It was already abgezetik with the tumah from outside. So now you can't say, oh, the tumah now is a second tumah happened in the kli. There's no second tumah happened in the kli. That's the tumah from the outside. Yeah. Or do we say, yeah, you couldn't come tamei?
What kind of tumah does it have?
Tuliyim? Yeah, again, he said second time, yeah. Abai said, we hold of this concept that once it became tamei, he cannot become tummy again. Well, it's not like the Mishnah. Sudden tummy midas. It says by sheets that Zav sits on, he can be matame 10 sheets below it. Okay, so midas. If his full weight, if it's something that he sits on, normally that you sit on, so if a lilac, then all the lilac are under it, up to 10, could become tummy as an avatuma, mavish avatuma. And then he decided, no more for, I'm not using it for a sheet to sit on, I need curtains, I'm using it as curtains.
The ones that he sat on.
The one that he sat
So
on.
he's make it.
It made it, so now once it becomes curtains, so it's not tumas midas. The tumah of avatuma to become avatuma, it lost that tumah of avatuma. It becomes just maga midas. Maga midas becomes. It's now more considered as something that he sits on that makes everything tummy on the bottom.
This is hanging.
Now he's using it as a curtain.
That's the way to be matar.
That's how you retire from avatuma, but it's still a rishon tumah because it's maga. It touched the zav touched it.
No, but it only touched the top, not the bottom.
When he sat on it, the bottom one touched the top one. We'll soon talk about it.
Each one touched
Yes. We learn Torah even midus. It's Torah from midus, meaning being avatuma. Avatuma maga midus. Mitzad maga midus. It's still tummy. Aber Rabbi Yosef midus naga. Sudden where was the touch of maga? Where was the maga? He says the maga was Ella shein naga by hazav tummy maga hazav. He says if the zav touched it before it became a curtain, so the tumah remained a maga, meaning he sat on it. He sat on the top, right?
That was midras, no?
So it was midis, but the bottom one also has maga midis. It's midis, but the bottom one is touching the top one, so that's a maga midis. I don't know if he's saying now that. Now he's saying just midis is that one thread is touching the other of the sheet. That's how he considers it. Says when the zav touched it, the sadin, it's tame betumas maga. So I feel the besave. It's kitamin nidas maga zav. He says it was first absorbed with a heavy tumah of him sitting on it. A real tummy midas, not maga midas. It was tummy. So it says, why would it have a gather from maga midas if it was already saturated with a heavy tumor already? How could it have maga also? How could it also have another one called maga touching?
So already he did enough.
Amai lema savalei tumah say that the whole tumah, the whole tumah eingesapt in them. So how could you make it again a lighter tumah? The heavier tumah is already absorbed in it. So how could a lighter tumah touch it? Amalei umamai high.
So when he hangs it, it should be still considered a midras tumah.
So he says, how could you consider if it turned up on a curtain? How did it become a maga? Yeah. Amalei umamai hashim nagabayazav labasamidas. Who says he touched it right after he sat on the sheets? Say Dilma Mikame Midas before he sat on the sheet, right? Maybe the kavanah is that the Zav touched the Sadin before he sat on the sheet. The Havi Tumah Chamura, before sitting, which is the Tumah Chamura, Al Tumah Kala. So the Tumah Chamura came after the Tumah Kala. First he touched it, and then he sat on it. So now you have two.
So then maybe it goes away then.
So in that case, you have maga. Then it makes sense. The maga was first. And we say it once he hangs it up on as a curtain and he's not sitting on it as a din like maga. Al Hacha says, but over here, here that the tumah didn't become heavier. It's the same tumah. The tumah that the Tful touched this chatzis on outside the kli. And then he put it in the kli and he touched it inside the kli. It was already saturated with the same tumah. You can't do the second tumah. Tumah kala, it's either tumah kala. Loi, I'm not going to say that he can become a second time tumah. Here, the reason why you have two daggers and tumah, because you started off with a lighter one, then came the heavier one. Here, it's the same tulyim touching outside the kli, touching it again inside the kli.
So what do you want to
So,
say?
so,
then?
so
What's
it
the-
cannot become tameh a second time. It's not the same as by the V line
In other words, so-
when he transformed
So
it
we
into
went
a,
here and then it came down this way. It can't.
again when he transforms it into a V line, we say it becomes maga.
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
second tumah.
Okay.
But here we're not going to say it becomes a second tumah because it's the same
What's our
tumah.
case? What's our case?
Our case is he touched the tulyim touched the piece
And then he
outside,
went again.
and then he touched it again inside. Says the Gemara, we have 2 minutes, or 1 minute now. Says the Gemara, element sefer. Only we learn out from the sefer. Maybe we have Yisrael Mishnei Sadin HaMekupalim, Menachem Zal Zeb, Yashav Zav Alein Shari, and Tamim Midas, V'hatach Tamim Midas, V'magam Midas. He says it's both the same. What does it mean? He sits on the top, all of the ones on the bottom become tamei, but the top was folded. So it has, when it's folded, it has a hefzik sort of between what he's sitting and the second sheet. But the second sheet touched the upper one, so it became side tamei medes and side tamei maga. Maga midas.
It all happens at the same time.
Oh, says why should it become maga midas if already it was absorbed with the heavier tumah? Says the Gemara, Hasam Vasacha. Says the Gemara over there, it can happen in one shot. It's touching and it's also midas, then it can become two tumas. But here it's coming out one after the other. Rava, I think maybe we should stop. You want to wait till after the Huh? If the might have a couple minutes or not? Huh?
We'll finish tomorrow.
Finish tomorrow.
Ja.
Okay.
Musst du daran gedenken? Also,
Rava had gesagt, he said, if it was a full midah of a mincha, his son shal mincha, that was divided into two halves. And one of the halves was lost. And he separated the second half in its place. And then they found the original one that was lost. So you have now 3 halves. You have the original half, and the one that was lost, and the one that they separated. And now and now they're all in one keli to mix up as a mincha, to mix them together. Nitma avud. What's if the one that was lost became tamei? Avud varish mitzdarfin. Then the one that was lost together with the first one, they are combined through the keli to become tamei. But the one that he separated later on in the place of the avud, it was never connected with the one that was lost. It was only connected with the one that was left in the keli from the beginning. But the one that's tamei is the one that was lost. The only one that has a connection to the one that's lost is the original half that was connected to the one that was lost, but not to the one that they later on separated a half. What's if the one that they separated, the half that was separated, was the tamei one? So the one that they separated instead of the other, that's the one that's connected with the original one. Nothing to do with the one that was lost. But the one that was lost had never had a connection with the one that was separated. But if the original one, the first one became tamei, the lost one and the one that they separated are combined together, and the old tamei. Why? Because the avud, it has a connection. The one that was lost had a connection with the original pieces that was there from the beginning to the end, and the one that they separated was connected with the one that they separated in the place of the avud was connected with the first one. So since the first one is tamei and has a connection with the lost one and with the one that they separated later, they're all going to be tamei. Abaya says even if whether the lost one or the one that was separated in the place of the lost one, nami shneim mitzdarfin, the other two are going to be mitzdarf to become tamei. My time, what's the reason? Kulu b'nei biksa da'adadininu. Because all 3 halves are like one house. It's considered as one family. They're all, the whole avud and the mufresh is all coming from one mincha. It's all connected with one mincha. And therefore the kli is mitzvah of all of them. The same teyin, says Rava continues, has the same thing is applicable to the kmitza itself, not just to the sarin, to the whole mincha, but to the kmitza, the scooping itself. Komatz min avud. If the kohen made a kmitza from the avud, sheyarav v'risha nacholin, then the remaining part from the avud, from the kmitza of the avud, and the original piece that was there from the beginning, those could be eaten. But mufresh ain't enachol, because the mufresh cannot be eaten, because it was never part of the mincha, it was never connected with the one that was avud. Kometz minam mufresh, if the kmitza was done from the mufresh, sheyarav v'risha nacholin, then the sheyarav of the mufresh and the original piece that was always there, they're connected, so they can be eaten. Avud they nenachol, but the avud, the one that was lost, was never right to be part of the mincha with the mufresh. Kometz min rishain, if he made a kmitza from the first one, the original piece that was there from the beginning to the end, shneim ein necholim, both cannot be eaten. Why? Because it can only be mate, the original one can only be mate, one isarin. And here you have 1.5 isarin. And we don't know which half is applicable, is applied to the original piece. So therefore, neither of them can be eaten. Abaya says, Afilu kametz ma'ach, even if he made a kmitza from the avud or from the mufresh, neither of them can be eaten. My time, what's the reason? Why can't the original one, the first piece, either be eaten? Says because all the halves are stemming from one mincha, and you have an extra half, and we don't know which one won't have any milo over the others. One is not going to be, the original one won't have a milo over the other two, over the mufresh and the avud. According to Abaye, all three halves have equal connection to this mincha, and the first half that was there from the beginning till the end doesn't have more of a shaychus to the mincha than the other two. Therefore, the kmitza from the chatzia avud ledugma is not going to be matir the chatzia rishon that was there from the beginning to the end, more than the chatzia mufresh, than one that he separated in the place of the avud. Rather, it's mashpia on both with this in the same way. And since the kmitza could only be mata one of them, so therefore, and it's a suffix, therefore neither of them could become mutter. Maskelo Papa is the shaila. Shirayim today, you say, but its own shirayim it could be the first one. Meaning the shirayim of the half of which the kmitza actually was done could be eaten. But you have a third of the kaimetz that's not fit to be makrif, because all three halves were mixed, and there's a third that doesn't belong there, so it's missing from the full kmitza. So it shouldn't be mata any of the shirayim. Maskela Rav Yitzchak Mishasha, an additional kasha. Rav Yitzchak Mishasha says the kaimetz gufa hechi karev, and the kmitza itself. How was it allowed to put on the mizbeach? Or you can tell chulin. There's a third from the third half that's not supposed to be on the mizbeach, mixed in that kmitza, which is chulin. You're not allowed to put chulin on the mizbeach. So the whole kaimetz should be puzzled. Rav Ashi said kaimetz b'dait the kain tal yamilza. That the kaimetz, the kmitza is totally in the one that took off the kmitza, in the kohen that took off the kmitza. The kohen can kametz, he's on a kametz, and the kohen when he's doing a kmitza, he definitely has mine only for one isarin and not more, and therefore the kmitza is going to be kosher.